Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's garden video. A couple weeks ago I ended up starting some lettuce seeds and they ended up germinating really well, and you're looking at them here. And what I ended up doing this week was thinning them out. I only want to have one lettuce per cell, and so that involves a little bit of transplanting or just extracting some and pulling some out. So what you're going to see me here doing at the beginning part of this video is creating some new cell trays, filling them up with some compost, and initially plucking out some of the lettuces that I don't want. I'm not going to actually transplant them. These are the stem lettuces, the new ones that I had. I'm just going to make sure I have one per cell, and then you're going to see me as we go through this video not only do that for the stem lettuce, but then I'm going to actually transplant and start a whole new tray of the other lettuces, the romaine lettuces that I have. Here you see me showing you that there's a little bit of a root on there. It's really early in the process of their development. I actually like doing it this early versus later. I think, the sooner you can get them established into a place where their roots can develop, the better. And so I think it's better kind of disturb them early while they're just getting settled and then get them going and then leave them alone. Versus some people like to grow them a bit bigger and then have a bigger root structure and then move them around. But for me, if you're really gentle with the soil and with the roots, you can do it pretty early, and I've had some really good success with this. So go ahead and watch me as I finish separating out and thinning out all the rest of my lettuces. And here we are at the end. I've got one per tray and they look really well, and I'll give you guys an update on them at the end of the video because I did this at the beginning of the week, so I'll show you how they look today. Another project I did in the garden, which is funny that I set the camera up at this angle, but as I went and I decided to actually cut down my raspberries, half of them to the ground and leave half of them up, so I should get an early crop and a late crop. So this is where you can look at the ground and see where I've cut down the raspberries, and then on the other side I've left some of them up. Last year I cut them all to the ground and I did get a wonderful, great fall harvest from them, but this year I want to have both a summer and a fall harvest, so I'm leaving some up. A random thing that happens, and this is weird, crows in my garden love pulling things out of the ground. So I was just walking around my garden and noticed that the strawberry plant was just laying randomly on the ground. So the only thing that I could surmise is that crows had picked it up. So I kind of went back to where I've been planting these strawberries around the edge of my dahlias, found a hole, planted it back in there, and let's see if it stays there, but the crows are kind of funny. I might not have shown this last week, I don't remember, but I do have a bunch of broccoli in the ground, and they're doing great. They're actually coming up. They've overwintered just fine. I've got some nice broccoli crowns growing in on them, so I'm going ahead and starting to harvest them this week. And earlier in the week, I did look at the seed trays. These are on the heated mat versus just sitting in the greenhouse, which is an unheated room. And I saw some beets starting to come up early in the week, so that was pretty exciting. But what was really reason why it was exciting is that it's really been really cold relative for us this week. I know there's people everywhere who get a lot colder temperatures. My greenhouse is not heated, but the lettuces were doing fine in these freezing temperatures, even though there was frost on the window, so the greenhouse really makes a difference. And I've been showing little bits and pieces of this for a while now, but I'm going to do an irrigation system, a drip irrigation system in my garden, in my veggie garden, so I don't have to worry about anything. But I was waiting to get all the components so that I could do this. So what I finally ended up getting was a T connector where it'll connect from the hose to the drip hose and then continue the hose straight on. And you'll see me as I put this together in the garden, but I wanted to sort of dry fit all the pieces to make sure they work. And it does look like the sizes are right, the pieces are right. So you'll see me this next week, I think, if we have good weather, go ahead and set up this whole entire drip system using some basic hoses and connectors in the garden. A look as of today, what's happening in the garden. I went around this morning and this is my garlic. It's coming up and looking really nice. My onions, when the crows leave them alone, are looking fine. I have no idea what's going to happen with them, but they seem to be surviving this cold spell and everything. My main patch of strawberries that I've planted out there are looking good. I did have one kale plant that I overwintered that I thought was going to do something, but the leaves were kind of a bit funky and it never really got going, but it's getting ready to go to seed, so that's kind of fun and interesting. And then I also have some really janky lettuces left over that'll end up going to the animals soon. I noticed this morning that I do have my first onions poking up, which is great because they typically don't have a great germination rate for me. And my beets that I showed you earlier, as of today, are doing great. So I'm going to actually thin these out later this week and you'll see that. My lettuces are still doing fine. I think I ended up losing one of them, so I might not be able to replace it. And these peas, I don't know what is going on. I planted them deep. They're pushing themselves out. I don't know what's going on, but these are peas, and I don't know if any of them worked, and I might just have to redo them, and that's okay because it's really early in the season. But I thought I'd just leave you with a little shot of our chicken, one of our chickens, Cedar, coming over to say hi.